Know that before you become a paralegal.
Money all around me. I look like I'm the man.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Crystal and welcome to my channel. Please don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. I'd really appreciate it. So as you guys can see by today's title, today's video is going to be a what you need to know before you become a paralegal. So today, as you guys can see, I decided to switch it up a bit. I didn't want this to be like a formal video where I'm like sitting in my living room or like sitting at my desk. I wanted this to be like more like a laxed, I still have on my work clothes. Other than that, this is going to be a really laxed, formal, straight to the point video. So with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So I would say the first important thing that you need to know before becoming a paralegal is to know what area of law you want to work in. Those of you that don't know, there are multiple areas of law. You have criminal law, you have civil law, you have entertainment law, you have contract law, you have like rights law. There's like so many different types of laws that you can practice, and I would definitely say I wish I knew exactly what type of law I wanted to go into prior to becoming a paralegal, because that can really help you out. Before you even become a paralegal, you can actually get an intern while you're becoming a paralegal. And you can do this to help decide, what type of law you want to go into. This not only helps while you're in paralegal school, because most paralegal schools touch on a little bit of everything. But if your school is like anything like mine, we had a different professor for each of the areas of law we covered. And once we got to the area of law that I was interested in, I said, hey, professor, can I get your contact so that, when I leave paralegal school, I now have a contact in the type of field that I want to work in. So that's why I say definitely know what type of field you want to work in. You can start connecting, you can start building your contacts and things of that nature. So the second thing kind of ties into what I just said. So depending on what type of law you go in, will determine if you have to do billables or no billables. So I say that to say, really do your research on billables. Basically, I'll shorthand it for you guys really quickly. So billables are basically when you have to bill a client, which is why when you're in criminal or civil litigation, you have clients and you have to bill your time to that client. You need to basically have an account for, depending on where you work, the hours are different. One firm may only have you do, I'm just going to throw random, 50 hours of billables a month. Another firm may have you do 70 hours of billables. Doesn't mean you work any less. It just means that's how much time that you need to account and allocate for to that specific client. So billables are very important. Don't go to the restroom too long, because you'll lose track. You'll forget to like kind of write down your what client you're working for, what you were doing. There's like billable codes. If you guys want to go research it, you definitely should before becoming a paralegal and choosing what fields you want to work in. A lot of people say, oh, you'll get used to it. But honestly, it's why a lot of people I know aren't paralegals anymore, because they didn't like the billables. So some people say it's not that big of a deal, but others, it literally chose their career. They decided to become secretaries or litigation assistants instead. They kind of did a little bit of the same work, but they weren't a paralegal, so they didn't have to bill their time to the client, i.e. do billables. Moving on to the third thing that you should know before becoming a paralegal. Depending on which type of law you go into will determine if you will interact with clients or not. I've worked at some law firms where I have interacted with clients on a me and the client basis, and that client can either be a person, it can be a company. A client also can be someone working within your same larger company. For example, if you work for an entertainment company, then your clients can still be hired within that same entertainment group as you. Even though you guys are employed by the same person, they are technically your clients because you are serving them and their request to draft up contracts. And they are the ones speaking to third parties, not necessarily you. So depending on the type of law you're in will determine if you have direct contact or indirect contact with clients. I say all this to say you must always be professional. I know they always say like the customer is always right. Kind of think about it like this. You never want to tell your client no, or you never want to tell your client not yet. You always want to be gentle with your client. Also too, depending on what type of law you're in, your client is the one bringing you the money, right? So you always want to make sure your client is happy, your client is pleased, your client is satisfied. Even if they're asking for updates constantly, and you're like, hey, you just sent me this 2 days ago. Why are you already asking for an update? Just tell your client in the most polite, treat your clients like they are literally your coworkers, or even better, your family. You want them to go and, recommend your firm for something. Let's say you work for a lemon law firm and you guys are a defense firm, and a whole bunch of friends that have Kias and they need attorneys. Then now what? It's going to be recommendable. So you want to keep a nice record of, that was a tongue twister. Keep a nice record of speaking to your clients. Is be kind and polite to your clients. And sometimes I know it can be super frustrating. Trust me, I've had clients nag me so much that they got to the point where they were probably calling me in the office twice a day asking for something. Doesn't matter. So whether they ask you guys questions you may or may not have the answer to, or whether they speak to you in a demeaning way, tip number 3 is to always, first of all, know that you will interact with clients. Just because you're a paralegal doesn't mean you don't have that kind of customer-client interaction. You will. So always stay polite and always be respectful. So the next thing you should know before becoming a paralegal is to be organized. Organized should literally be your middle name. It's so funny because in determining to be a paralegal or to continue going to law school, I was like, you know what? I don't know not one attorney that's organized. There's not to say that they aren't out there. I just don't know of any that are. Paralegals are very organized people. As you guys see in my paralegal videos, I keep a hand calendar. I keep a calendar on my phone. I have my desk organized. Even if in your desktop and like how everything looks and presents itself, you should always be organized. If someone is asking you for a file or document, you're going to need to pull that up or know how to get it, or make some magic. Attorneys literally think that paralegals can work magic, but what it is that we just stay so organized. If we don't have the answer, we can find it right away. Next on what you need to know before becoming a paralegal is know the age demographic of the attorney that you are working with, the attorney and or law firm. If you know it's like an older law firm that's been around for a while and their attorneys are kind of a little oldish, then know that you're going to have a huge file room like I did at my first firm. You're going to have a huge file room. You may have to go back there and file stuff sometimes. I used to be a file clerk, so that is what I did up until I was officially a paralegal. But just know that you're going to have to print stuff. Instead of, hey, find this and email it to me. No, find this and print it for me. Yeah, I actually had an attorney tell me himself one time that he was a dinosaur and I'm just going to have to get with it. And it was perfectly fine. I understood. He's just older and he just was used to working that way with like paper, which is an old school fashion. Also too, when depositions happen, when pre-trials happen, when trials happen, just know that there will not be a digital binder if you are working with an older school attorney. Your binder is going to be printed. You may need to have 3 or 4 copies ready by the time that they need to go. So make sure you allocate a lot of your time to that if your firm doesn't have designated assistants or file clerks that work in the copy room. Versus some firms, like the most recent firm I worked at, they actually went paperless. So we hardly ever printed anything. Just know that before you become a paralegal. Don't try to judge your paralegal journey to someone else's or your experience to someone else's unless you are working at the same law firm. Even for the same attorney, I probably had a different paralegal experience than someone else working for my law firm just because they worked for different attorneys as I did. So they expected different things, which means obviously our experiences and our jobs were different. But to piggyback off of working with attorneys, I would say the next thing you need to know before becoming a paralegal is working with other paralegals. You may not always work in a cohort of paralegals. When I was at the district attorney's office, I worked alongside, well, I wasn't technically considered a paralegal, but I did work alongside 2 colleagues in a paralegal manner. Sometimes you'll be the only paralegal on the case. There'll be a partner assigned to the case, which is a partner or a managing attorney, and then a lower level attorney, which is an associate, and then you'll have the paralegal. Typically. So you'll have like kind of each level. If it's a larger firm, then you might not even have a partner on every case. Sorry guys, my car is getting a little hot right now. You may be a junior paralegal working under a senior paralegal. So, it all depends on how many paralegals your firm is using or has. Just know that there are going to be jobs in firms where you are not the only paralegal, and there also will be jobs in firms that you are the only paralegal. So you just need to know how to use your resources. If you're in a paralegal school or class with a cohort or no other paralegals, it doesn't matter if they practice a different type of law. This was my next tip that I wanted to mention earlier. It doesn't matter if they practice a different type of law, they could still help you out. Whether some paralegals e-file, some people say just secretaries do that, but paralegals in some jobs do that too. So, use your connections any way you can. I still talk to someone who I met at my first law firm, and she is a huge help. I sometimes still call her to this day like, hey, do you know how to do this? Just because she's been a secretary for over 25 years. So she has way more knowledge than I do. Just because I'm technically a paralegal doesn't mean that she knows any more or any less than I do. That's another thing I also too wanted to mention. Just because you're a paralegal doesn't mean that someone else whose title is a legal assistant is doing the same or something different. A legal assistant and a paralegal can work synonymously. So don't get caught up on titles. Some people get caught up on the title. I'm a paralegal. Oh, I'm a legal assistant. They're the same thing, honestly. If you compare the workloads and what you guys do to assist the attorney, it can truly be the same thing. So when you are applying to paralegal job, don't get caught up, hey, I want to apply to this paralegal position. If it's a legal assistant, but the job description is the same, go ahead and apply. Who knows? You can work there for a few years and say, hey, is it okay if we change my title to paralegal instead? They may be down for it. You never know. The last thing I wanted to discuss in regards to what you need to know before becoming a paralegal is making a mistake. When you make a mistake, always be truthful, honest, and upfront. We are not human. Yes, we are human. We are not robots. We are human. Humans make mistakes. That's what make us as humans, because we do make mistakes and we are flawed. If they didn't want us doing the job in a robot, they could have hired the robot to do the job. But I say all that to say, if you make a mistake, be honest and be upfront. The longer you wait to tell somebody about your mistake, I promise you, worse it's gonna get. From experience in the legal fields, mistakes happen, and your upper counterpart, it could be your senior paralegal, it could be whoever you report to, it could be a partner, it could be an attorney, whoever you report to that is overseeing the case or the project that you're working on, let them know immediately, hey, I made a mistake, I apologize, can we get a plan to fix this? It could be sending the wrong email to opposing counsel that you meant to send in-house, and now opposing counsel has all of this confidential, privileged information that you've now just sent. It's happened. No mistake that you're going to make hasn't been made before. So trust me, the sooner you alert them to the mistake, the better. I can say I've definitely made mistakes before too, and I thank God that I haven't been fired over it. But my way of bouncing back is like, hey, I made this mistake, but also too, your reputation as a paralegal will attest to your mistake. So those are my tips that I wanted to give you guys of things that you need to or should know before becoming a paralegal. I have way more to share, but I didn't want to make this video too long. I kind of wanted it to be a little personal, like chit chat between me and you. So let me know if you guys liked the vibe of this video. I'll definitely do more. So drop down in the comment what was your favorite tip. Drop down more questions. Q&A paralegal video is still coming soon. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Also give this video a thumbs up if you guys liked it. Catch you guys in my next video. Bye.
You see money all around me. I look like I'm the man.